Hey everyone, good afternoon. My name is Nabila, and today I'll be presenting on promoting diversity through understanding of barriers and drivers for inclusive clinical trials. So, before delving into the topic, let us look at some examples that emphasize on why diversity in clinical trials matter. So, clinical research has shown that in Black patients with multiple sclerosis, they have a more severe disease course and shorter lasting response to standard therapies compared to white patients. This raises a crucial question. Are the current drug dosages and the treatment protocols equally effective across all the racial groups? If the clinical trials are primarily testing the medications based on one demographic, they are not able to be generalized or applied on multiple demographics. This leads to the potency being decreased and the treatment outcomes being suboptimal for the underrepresented groups. Ensuring that the diversity in clinical trials help tailor therapies to different populations makes the treatment more effective and equitable for all patients. Historically, the drug dosages have been determined based on the clinical trials that are conducted predominantly on men. This leads to the higher rate of adverse reactions among women. Biological differences, like, for example, metabolism and hormone levels, they have a say on how the drugs work, but these factors were more often overlooked during research. Also, for people with red hair who are majorly stemming from a European descent, they experience a shorter response, a shorter lasting effect for the local anesthetic. But they are also very much underrepresented in clinical trials. Such examples highlight the importance of genetic and the biological diversity in clinical research. And we have to make sure that the individuals, regardless of their genetic or their gender background, have access to the safe and effective medical treatments. So, some challenges that we are facing right now, the drug efficacy and the safety, they vary significantly across populations. And failing to include such diverse participants lead to biased treatment recommendations. However, to achieve the diversity in trials, we have several challenges. For example, like the Tuskegee syphilis study, this caused a historical mistrust which stemmed from unethical and poor decision making and has also made many minority communities develop a hesitancy to participate in medical research. Also, financial, logistical, and technological barriers such as transportation issues and high trial costs, they affect underrepresented participants. And it is important that we recognize these disparities. And recently, FDA has introduced the 2024 Diversity Action Plan, which mandates that the phase 3 trials implement targeted recruitment strategies and also bring into effect decentralized trial models and also mandate real world evidence that is integrated to enhance that the population is adequately represented and health equity is maintained. So, based on these challenges, this particular study aimed to address three main questions. So, firstly, what specific obstacles, like for example, logistical, financial, or psychological, are stopping the minority groups from enrolling in trials? And also, what are pulling them, like incentivizing them to participate? Second, trust is one of the major factors, like how do different communities perceive the pharmaceutical companies and what makes them feel safe, included, and comfortable in joining the research. And lastly, based on these insights, how can we have an effect on the uh, industry clinical trial design that is reflective of the population that they aim to benefit? So the study methodology, it was interesting because this was one of the largest studies conducted on this topic. It included over 12,000 participants from 54 countries and was an online questionnaire that was administered during April to June of 2023. So one of the main strengths was that it was pushed through the patient advocacy groups and recruitment networks. So by doing this, they ensured that it actually reached the people who were seriously considering the clinical trials. Sorry?
Just continue.
기적이야.
So, to ensure that the study was credible, the statistical tests were used, and they determined if the differences were actually statistically significant. And it was also available in multilingual modes to appeal to such a broad audience across the 54 countries. And the distribution, the IRB, the study was also like IRB approved so that the patient's confidentiality was maintained and their rights were protected. So the demographic of respondents, one thing that is predominantly noticeable is that the majority of the participants were white. So it might be heavily skewed, but it is also important that it provides valuable insights into the underrepresented groups. And also there is a notable gender breakdown. Females are comparatively higher than the males, and this emphasizes that women are more engaged in making healthcare decisions and are more wanting to stay more informed than men. And the global distribution of participants just emphasizes that the findings help us understand whether these issues are very limited to any particular region or are like universal. So the barriers to clinical trial participation, the major thing identified was time constraint, which was more important for Asians and Hispanics. This also highlights the financial and occupational constraints. So in the case of many trials that require frequent in-person site visits, it can be hard for people with demanding jobs or like family commitments. And study eligibility remained the major cause, like the major barrier. Almost like three-fourths of the participants were deemed ineligible. And this emphasized that the inclusion criteria needs to be relaxed a bit. Financial constraints also had a major role. Like the most of the minority groups are more likely to be in lower and middle income countries, which makes most of the unpaid clinical trials unappealing to them. So, placebo concerns are mostly leaning towards a psychological barrier. So, the people worry about not receiving the actual treatment that they signed up for, and instead getting a placebo and being like unaware of it, which also like discourages participation. And privacy concerns. These are mostly evident amongst Asian and Black participants, which likely are stemming from the historical mistrust that they have been through when it comes to medical research and handling of the data. So, to address these barriers, it's important that we uh, bring more flexible study designs into practice and expand the inclusion criteria, like the eligibility criteria, provide financial support wherever possible, and embrace more of community engagement strategies. So, barriers to participation when it comes to time and work constraints. One of the major findings was that Asian respondents were more likely to state the concerns about time off from work and the time required to like participate in the trial as opposed to white participants. Also, Hispanic respondents expressed a higher concerns about time off from work compared to non-Hispanic participants. So this says that the scheduling of the trials, it needs to be flexible to accommodate the patients, and also wherever possible, we should minimize the time commitments to encourage participation from these communities. Technology and home-based study. So, in this case, we can observe that Black, Hispanic, and Asian respondents reported significantly higher levels of disruption as opposed to white and non-Hispanic respondents. While decentralized trials may be considered an advantage, it may not necessarily be applicable across all communities because they may do more harm than good if there are inadequate participation from particular communities. So while we are considering designing a trial, we have to ensure that if it's beneficial across all communities. When it comes to safety, again, which is like a psychological barrier, there has been a positive trend, and we can see there is an improvement in the perception of safety. From 2015 to 2023, there has been like a significant increase in the percentage of both white and black respondents who viewed the clinical trials as very safe. So the efforts to improve the public understanding and trust in clinical research are actually having an effect. Willingness to participate. Along with the perception of safety, which has improved, we also have an increase in the willingness to participate over time. Both black and white respondents have shown a 10% increase from 2015 to 2023. While this is a good metric, overall, the participation is only limited to around like half of the population. So this still has much room for improvement. When it comes to trust in pharmaceutical companies, it the diversity in the staff of the pharmaceutical companies is also having a say. So if the patients feel more comfortable if they see that they are represented, the people who are running the study are relatable to them, and a sense of transparency is also important. So people want to know what exactly is in it for them, like what risks they are taking, how the data will be processed, and what exactly are the benefits that they may receive. Also, in partnership with community organizations, like for example, religious organizations or advocacy groups, uh, the Black participants stressed on the importance for this. So the companies might look into working with trusted community leaders and religious advocacy groups to create a sense of trust and build credibility. Also, even in this, there is a positive trend that the trust towards pharmaceutical companies have significantly improved. From 2021 to 2023, the number of people that cited mistrust as a reason for not participating or perceiving the clinical trials as unsafe has decreased. And this was consistent across all the racial groups, which is a very good, encouraging thing. In diversity and community engagement, uh, especially for Black and Hispanic people, when it comes to building trust, diversity is a major factor. In staff and participants, having diversity in the clinical trials was cited as an important factor in increasing trust. Also, a higher importance was placed on the pharmaceutical companies partnering with local community leaders by Black people. Also, active engagement with patients and caregivers. Uh, Many communities, except the Asian respondents, cited this as an important thing. Logistical considerations. Several factors were noted, and they mainly included that the required medical procedures, the costs and reimbursements, the proximity of the study center, and the duration of the participants were deemed highly important. Also, among those people who have never participated in clinical trials, the factors like compensated time off work and home home-based delivery and elements of the study, they were considered more important. So by addressing these logistical concerns, we can be able to recruit more patients. Discussion. So I also felt that while we're on this topic, we can touch upon the recent DEI policy changes on clinical trial diversity. So based on the new administration, the recent shift in the DEI policy has already affected the clinical trial diversity effort. The most notable one is that the FDA removed its draft guidance on improving trial diversity. Without any clear set of rules for federal mandates, the trial sponsors may deprioritize the diversity initiatives. So, this might lead to ambiguity in trial diversity requirements, and also, as an effect of this, there will be an inconsistency in the enrollment practices. Uh, this There is a regulatory gray area when it comes to how the pharmaceutical companies are facing uncertainty. Like how much emphasis should they be placing on the factor of inclusivity? And on the industry side, the major pharmaceutical companies like Genentech, Sanofi, Eli Lilly have pledged to publicly reaffirm their commitment to diversity, but without any regulatory pressure or backing, the implementation may be very ambiguous and they might vary. The risk is that the reduced diversity in clinical trials, it could widen the health disparities. It could make the new treatments less effective for underrepresented populations. And moving forward, it is critical that we advocate for alternative diversity strategies such as decentralized trials, community partnerships, and real world evidence that is integrated to maintain inclusivity despite the volatile regulatory landscape. Implications for clinical trial design. So, based on the findings of the study, there are several implications for how we can design the clinical trials to improve diversity. So, addressing the time and work related concerns is crucial, especially to encourage the Asian and Hispanic participants. Ensuring diverse representation among the research staff can help build trust, especially with the Black and Hispanic participants. By providing technological support and home based study requirements, we can eliminate the chances of these becoming barriers. And by being very flexible with the scheduling and the time co- commitment that is required, we can encourage the participation rates. And also, it is necessary that we keep the people informed and better educate them about placebos and the study procedures to address concerns, misconceptions, and any myths that they might be having. Again, when it comes to strategies for improving trust, in clinical research to build trust in pharmaceutical companies, we can be including diverse participants and staff and make the sense of belonging and the sense of relatability among patients stronger. And partnering with local community leaders and organizations can help build trust, especially in underrepresented communities. Active engagement with patients and caregivers is important for almost all groups. And overall, if we strive to improve transparency and proper communication about clinical research processes, we can remove the barriers of misconception. Limitations. While there are plenty of valuable insights, it is also important that we acknowledge the limitations. So the first one is that the study employed a convenience sampling strategy. So it is a non-probability sampling method. The participants are selected solely on the basis of their ease of availability or their willingness to participate, rather than an unbiased random selection. So this strategy is often used when it comes to a survey-based research because it is cost-effective and it can collect and process large amount of data sets quickly, but it may cause a selection bias. The key demographics may be underrepresented, and the way these findings translate into the real world when it comes to generalizability, it may be affected, and also self-selection bias may be a thing. And because the survey is online, the format could potentially exclude certain groups, especially with those who have limited internet access from low and middle income countries. Because the data was also self-reported, there may be some inaccuracies that may not be accounted for. And again, there is a potential for response bias in a survey-based research. Conclusion. So this study provides plenty of insights into the barriers and the drivers for inclusive clinical research. And the barriers for participation can vary significantly among different ethnic groups. While there has been a notable improvement in trust towards the pharmaceutical companies, it is encouraging, but the importance of diversity extends beyond just the participants and it covers even the clinical trial staff as well. Logistical and technological considerations play a crucial role in participation decisions. And moving forward, it is important that we develop targeted approaches that address the specific needs and concerns of different groups to truly improve diversity in clinical trials. Future directions. So, looking ahead, there are like several important directions for future work in this area. So, one of them is we need to develop targeted interventions based on the findings of the study. And further research is required to identify the most effective strategies for that particular patient population. By integrating the real world evidence, we can complement the existing clinical trial data providing a more holistic understanding of the drug efficacy and safety in diverse population. By exploring the adaptive trial design, we can optimize the inclusion of underrepresented population because it allows for any adjustment of recruitment strategies in a very dynamic way. And again, collaboration with community organizations and advocacy groups and uh, leaders, it will be an important factor in improving the outreach and building trust. There can be novel biomarkers which may help with personalized medicine approaches across diverse groups, and it may come in handy when it comes to tailoring treatments to specific genetic and environmental factors. And also by integrating predictive algorithms to identify the potential barriers to trial participation, can help us inform targeted recruitment strategies. And lastly, there should be a global collaborative network which will be crucial for enhancing the diversity when it comes to multinational trials and to ensure that the generalizability and the broad applicability of clinical trial data is valid. So these are my references, and with that, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you.